Secretary Noem, Trump administration, you're going after the worst of the worst criminals, and we agree with you. The problem is 70% of the people you've arrested have no criminal record. You're going after non-criminal immigrants, U.S. citizens, and permanent legal residents. Donna Hughes Brown, Irish citizen, green card holder, 48 years in the United States. She also happens to be the mother of a U.S. Marine, sister to a retired Army colonel. She's in ICE detention since July. She tried to come back from Ireland, arrested, has been there since then. Her crime? She wrote 2 bad checks for less than $80 a decade ago. You arrested her, she's in custody.
Representative Lou Correa walked into this hearing prepared to do one thing: strip away Secretary Noem's talking points and make her confront the real human cost of her policies. She keeps claiming the Trump administration is only targeting the worst of the worst, but Correa brought cases that make that claim collapse instantly.
Her husband, Jim Brown, came to us and told us her story. Jim told us, I voted for President Trump because he promised to go after criminals in our community and not people like my wife. If I can, I'd like to play a video for you. Then he also voted for President Trump.
Yes, sir.
Why did you vote for him?
Because I was an idiot. 80% of the evangelical Christian people were lied to, if you really want to know the truth, and that's exactly what happened. They said criminal, and I believe criminals need to be off the street.
I just want to make sure people watching this understand who you are.
My wife and I, when we don't work, we're ministers. We help the needy. That's what we do. And that's who they're arresting.
Now we've got Mr. Jim Brown before you. He's standing up. Hopefully you can talk to him a little bit. These people, Donna Hughes Brown, are not the individuals that should be deported. Another case, Narciso Barranco was beaten and arrested by masked agents while working as a landscaper. He's an undocumented immigrant, 30 years in this country, not a traffic ticket. Mr. Barranco is also the father of 3 U.S. Marines. 3 Marines. You want to make a movie of people like this. A man who comes to this country, instills patriotism in his kids. They swear an oath to serve and possibly give up their life for this country. We'll play a video on this as well, please.
Masked federal agents were filmed pinning a man to the ground and repeatedly striking him in the head and neck before putting him in an unmarked car. The man in the video has been identified as Narciso Barranco and is the father of 2 active duty Marines and 1 Marine veteran. The Department of Homeland Security said an illegal alien was arrested by Border Patrol agents after he, quote, assaulted federal law enforcement, adding that Barranco, quote, swung a weed whacker directly at an agent's face. Video shared by DHS and reviewed by CNN shows Barranco running with a weed whacker, but does not show him striking officers.
I also have with us today Alex Barranco behind you, a retired Marine. That's his father. And Alex, on behalf of myself, members here, I want to thank you for your service to our country, and we also thank your brothers for serving our great country. Thank you very much. Got another case, George Rete, 25-year-old, native of California, my home state. He's a U.S. citizen, Army veteran who served in Iraq. Well, on his way to work, he came to an immigration checkpoint, pulled over. I don't know where officers deployed tear gas on him, broke his car window, pepper sprayed him, and dragged him out of his car. An American citizen held for 72 hours without any charges, wasn't even given the opportunity to shower, to wash off that paper
Gentleman's
spray.
time's expired. I now recognize the gentleman from Mississippi, Mr. Guest.
Mr. Chairman, I have 2 articles I'd like to present for the record.
Unanimous consent.
Under President Trump, an agency intended to keep Americans safe has diverted resources from child abuse, trafficking, and terrorism to immigration enforcement. Second is this letter from my Orange County Sheriff, Don Barnes, essentially talking about all the individuals under Prop 50 referred to ICE 2025 year to date. 50 of them,
Without objection.
ICE never showed up to pick them up.
Without
Mr.
objection,
Chairman.
I will
Mr. Chairman.
entertain.
What Representative Lou Correa exposed in that exchange is exactly what millions of Americans have been sensing, but haven't seen laid out this clearly. Secretary Noem's policies don't distinguish between criminals and the very people who have sacrificed the most for this country. She says she's restoring the rule of law, but the cases Correa brought forward prove the opposite. Donna Brown isn't a threat. She's a green card holder who has lived here for 48 years, a minister, a mother of a U.S. Marine, and a woman whose entire life has been anchored in her American community. Her crime was 2 bad checks totaling less than $80 from over a decade ago. Yet she's been sitting in ICE detention for months, and Correa forced Noem to face the reality that her policies are punishing families who believed the very promises she ran on. Lou Correa then turned to the case of Narciso Barranco, a peaceful landscaper whose only mistake was raising 3 sons who became United States Marines. Instead of thanking him, Noem's agents tackled him, beat him, and shoved him into an unmarked car. Even DHS's own footage couldn't substantiate their claims of an attack. And behind Noem sat his son Alex, a retired Marine, forced to watch the person who raised him be treated as disposable. Noem didn't acknowledge the injustice. She didn't admit wrongdoing. She didn't even show remorse. She simply repeated the same rehearsed lines, as if repeating them made the harm disappear. And then came the most disturbing part. Correa's reminder that even U.S. citizens aren't safe under Noem's leadership. George Rhee, an Army veteran, a citizen born and raised here, was tear-gassed, pepper-sprayed, dragged out of his car, and detained for 72 hours without charges. That is not restoring order. That is violating the very constitutional rights she claims to defend. Every example Correa presented exposed the same truth, that Noem's version of enforcement has become so reckless and so untethered from reality that even veterans, Marines families, legal residents, and citizens are being swept up like enemies of the state. And what makes it even worse is how casually Noem dismissed every single case. Not an apology, not a recognition of failure, not even a moment of empathy. Instead, she acted as if these families were simply collateral damage in a political performance. Lou Correa's message landed hard. If the government can't distinguish between dangerous criminals and the very people who defend this country, the system is not just broken. It has lost its moral compass. And that is why this moment matters. Because this isn't about immigration anymore. It's about whether Americans can trust that their own government knows who the bad guys actually are. And based on what we just witnessed, Representative Lou Correa is right to be alarmed. Because Secretary Noem's answers made one thing painfully clear: she doesn't know the difference.